Hi, I'm Dr. Chris Stevens, and this is the Psychology to Live By podcast.
Contentment isn't something that we just attain. We have to learn it. We have to learn to be content. That's my experience. And so, yeah, I feel like getting to a point of being content actually contributes to some form of success in my mind. I'd rather have peace than pain. Do you know what I mean?
Find me in the middle of the world. I'm going under, but I'll be okay.
That is the voice of Jake Issac, who is a Manchester-based multi-instrumentalist with a distinctive style as a singer-songwriter fusing soul, jazz and rock. He's had a stellar career, having worked with and supported a diverse range of artists from Sting, India Arie, Eyre, Paloma Faith, Lake Street Dive, Joan As Police Woman, Angus and Julia Stone, Tori and Elton John. This was a really stimulating discussion, and you'll see what a delightful, gentle and thoughtful man Jake is. Themes in this conversation included the central role of one's internal antenna or intuition in the creative process, how Jake's managed a happy medium in terms of family and well-being, not compromising his music and learning how to be content with what he has. His advice to musicians to be true to their creative identity, not just to copy others. The spiritual and sacred aspects of music. The roles of highs and lows, including suffering in making art authentic and relevant. The centrality of the African philosophy of Ubuntu, or I am because we are, in Jake's whole approach, and his advice to young artists to both diversify and to get enough rest to sustain and stimulate creativity. It was a wonderfully diverse and well-humoured conversation, and I hope you love it too.
I'll be okay. When that morning comes, I tell myself, hold on, be okay.
Here I am with Jake Issac. How are you, Jake?
Doing well, sir. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Very well. We're on the opposite sides of the planet.
Very opposite indeed.
Yeah, nighttime here, first thing in the morning for you. Now, obviously, we've had a bit of a preliminary discussion, and but just for the audience, the broad parameters of what we want to talk about and what this series is about, because I've been interviewing about a dozen people so far, is about sort of three things. It's the music industry and its impact on people's mental health. Generally speaking, it's not good. And it's a bit ironic or a bit paradoxical in a way, because one of the other topics is going to be how good music is for mental health, both for the creator and the receiver, the participant in music. So one of the things we might tease out is what's going on there. I'd be very interested to know about your own experiences of the music industry, mental health, and how you kind of relate that to your work, like your practice as an artist, and how that maybe feeds into your well-being. And of course, the other general topic is, you and I, no doubt, are going to share an interest in creativity itself.
Sure.
So it's pretty broad, and we'll go for about half an hour, and sure. We'll see where we go. But maybe I'd like to start just so, in case people don't know about you, could you just give a brief thumbnail sketch of your trajectory to where you are now?
Yeah, so I'm a singer-songwriter now, but my journey started off as a drummer, playing session drums. I taught myself, I did all my grades, like I was teaching people that play drums by like the age of 16. I found myself playing in rock and roll, jazz, gospel, different genres, playing for an array of artists, from basically 16 all the way through to maybe about 22. And that kind of culminated in my last gig was music directing for Duffy, who's a great singer back in the day, lovely lady. And then during uni, I was studying marketing, and I kind of thought, it was kind of like the beginning stages of having this thought of, well, maybe I've been writing these little love songs in my room, and maybe I could share them to someone and it might help their day. Fast forward, I ended up writing some songs, becoming a songwriter after uni. Got my first cut writing for a boy band called Blue, and a singer called Gabrielle over here in the UK. And then someone said, you should try singing your own songs. I did. 2 years later, I was opening Glastonbury for Imagine Dragons and signing to Elton John and getting my first #1 record in the UK on iTunes. And I've kind of been blagging it ever since. I'm still a drummer.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did a little bit of research, and obviously, and the internet's such a wonderful thing now. I was watching YouTube videos, of course, and you're highly skilled, and not just on the drums, obviously, the vocals, the piano, guitar. So obviously also humble. But that's fantastic. And so this was obviously a drive, like right from the beginning.
Sure.
Do you remember, when you first, just knew that you were going to be totally into music?
Yeah, I think it took a while to get there, if I'm honest. I think my mum and dad, particularly when I was playing drums for other artists, I'm like the only musical one in my family. As in, like, which is weird and wonderful all at the same time. But in a nutshell, I think so during uni, my mum had this thing of, hey, if you're going to do music, then you've got to study classical music, Baroque music, so you can teach it. So if it all fails, you can teach. And that kind of narrative wasn't great for me. Whereas my dad was a little bit more like, mate, follow your nose, do what you feel, it'll all work out. And my mum was like, I remember my mum saying, actually, can you get a mortgage being a drummer? Can you even get married? Like, what are you gonna? So she was really nervous about anything on that trajectory. Anyway, fast forward, she's just watched me sing at the Royal Albert Hall for the King. Like, do you know what I mean? On our Remembrance Day. And so, these things have a way of working out. These things have a way of. Sometimes our internal antennas are actually, if we take a risk, there's this great saying, nothing extraordinary happens without risk. If we're willing to take a cheeky risk with our internal antennas, who knows where we could end up, So I think the drive didn't kick in till quite late because I was kind of dissuaded from using that internal antenna. So, but we got there in the end, and my mum and dad are great champions of what I do, and yeah.
Well, your mum, she had obviously insight into, because one of our topics is just how tough the music industry can be, and it's more common than not that people struggle to make a living, and and most musicians, I think, empirically speaking, can't afford a mortgage.
Yeah,
right.
I hear that.
And that's one of one of the what we call psychosocial factors. So it's basically these sociological factors that make the industry potentially damaging to people's well-being. Things like financial insecurity, the vagaries of stardom, the drug and alcohol culture, the nighttime work, travel away from family.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff. It's like a cocktail that you'd mix to make people unwell. So she obviously loved you, and she didn't want she wanted you.
Yeah.
But you've exceeded um,
Yeah.
all expectations.
Yeah. I think someone asked me if I'd classify myself as a successful musician,
Yeah.
literally last week. And I said, my response was, listen, I've got a family, I've got 3 kids, a wife I'm still married to. Do you know what I mean? I've got a couple of properties. And I'm still getting to tour when I want, how I want, and make music for others.
Yeah.
For me, like, I am content. I'm not doing arenas, and I'm not away from my family 2/3 of the year. So in a crazy way, and I'm really grateful for it, I've been able to kind of, just find this happy medium. Where I don't have to compromise my own identity to become something I'm not, and all that messy.
Yeah.
So
I'd imagine that's one advantage is starting that or really getting into it full time a little bit later because you're a little bit more mature.
Yeah, true. Very true.
And, I have worked with a couple of bands, but basically, teenagers, and it's very difficult. It's very confusing, especially if they get early success.
Yes.
It's quite destabilizing, but I really hear what you're saying, and I couldn't help but sort of mapping it onto my own experience in this way, in that I feel like privileged and lucky in the same way that I've been able to largely determine my own work, how much I work.
Yeah.
And so that I could maintain, I've been blessed with a wife who, for some, bizarre reasons, still loves me, and
how that works, isn't
it? and again, if you think about those psychosocial factors, you had your inner antennae, which I hear as intuition, right?
Yeah.
It also guided you in that way too, in your decision making about what you do, what you won't do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and the big arenas could be wonderful, but could be dreadful as well, right?
Yeah, totally. To be fair, even with that, I've played a couple of stadiums, but they're not. It's not my gig. I've had the privilege of opening for someone else, so it swings around. You know what I mean? But I think. Contentment isn't something that we just attain. We have to learn it. We have to learn to be content. That's my experience. And so, I feel like getting to a point of being content actually contributes to some form of success in my mind. I'd rather have peace than pain. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. And, part of my work has been consulting, into, the corporate world. And, and for example, currently I still have a role, a sort of day a fortnight in an international law firm, sort of in-house counselling, as it were. And, I'm often dealing with people who are wildly successful.
Yes.
In inverted commas, but are really suffering. So I think, the definition of success is very important, and making sure that success is concordant with our values, right?
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, you're a smart man.
No, I've just managed to learn from my mistakes.
Well, that's probably a definition of intelligence, right? And wisdom, because I don't know anyone who's got wisdom without making mistakes.
Very true. I'll take that.
Speaking of which, if you're thinking about your trajectory in the music industry, are there any mistakes that you would like to caution younger musicians about? Like, there are things that you really learnt from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I very much approached my journey coming into the industry as a songwriter that assessed formulas in order to please the machine. So I would construct my music and songs, and I would hold back parts of my sonic identity, my creative identity. Number one, because I'm a black man in a majority white country, and that's a dynamic in itself. Number two, because the pop machine is the most lucrative machine, so that's another. And so I found myself compromising, partly out of self-preservation and partly out of peer pressure. And so I limited my creative expression. And the only and hear me, like I had a great I had a great launch pad. You know, I'm able to do what I'm doing now because again, somehow these things fall into place, even with the mistakes, and somehow there's some form of chaotic beauty out of it. But I think if I was to turn back the hands of time or to give advice to another musician who's starting their journey, I'd say do not compromise on your creative identity for the sake of the context you're in. The most powerful art is the art that remains resolute in its identity. In my experience, we don't celebrate. We don't see culture celebrating copycats. We see culture celebrating unique identity. Do you know what I mean? Strong.
Yeah. No, I do, and there's a lot. I think there's a lot of jumping off points here. I think from what you're talking about. We'll see.
That's I suppose that would be my main thing. Don't like now in this season of my life, I'm making the music that I love and I don't care. But at the same time, I've got an audience that I can tour with. I can go to different countries and play gigs. My music is played on radio, but it's taken a while for me to get here. And I'd say to someone, no, start. And even if 5 people are into it out of 500, go with those 5, feed them. Bring your beauty to the world. It's needed. That's what I'd say.
That's beautiful. There's a couple of things there too. It's interesting, again, reflecting on my own sort of career. I think early in my career, I had to do a lot more work that it was okay. It was good work, but it wasn't really the thing.
Yeah.
So in a kind of way, I had to get a certain amount of my brand out there and recognition.
Yes.
Which then opened up the possibility of me doing more what I really want to do.
Yes.
Right? And so I think it's a bit of a tussle for most people. I think getting there are those 2 factors, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because that early stuff gave you the platform to be able to pick and choose.
Yeah, it did.
But I think your central point is still really, really important. That maybe it's like having a portfolio, a significant part of your portfolio needs to be the stuff that's really coming from inside. That's really me.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And when you were talking earlier about your what was it? Your inner
antenna, intuition.
Antenna, yes.
Yeah.
I'm really, professionally and personally, really interested in the whole notion of intuition.
Yeah.
And just to say, for example, that in the creative process, it's a really integral part of the process.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of by definition, if something's going to be creative, it's new, right? It's it's unique, and it in that sense hasn't been done before. Of course, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, in everything we do, but still, we transmute it via the uniqueness of our own mind and our own experience, right? Yeah. Now, the problem with that is you can't just think your way to that. You can't calculate it. It's too complex.
Sure.
And so intuition, the inner antenna.
Yeah.
Intuition is this feeling of knowing, and most people describe it as a sort of a gut feeling or yep. And I'm leading the witness here, but I'm going to be interested in what you have to say about this. And so it's like where our kind of analytic thinking can take us so far.
Yeah.
It can't take us over that threshold of the unknown and complexity, right?
Yeah.
But our intuition, in a way, I think of it in brain terms, it's like it has more access to the vast interconnected neuronal networks, right?
Yeah.
Which can't be held in the conscious mind because they're too complex.
Yeah.
But when they fit, we get this feeling of fitness.
Yeah.
And then something rises up into the conscious mind, which is like might be a thought, it could be an image, it could be a symbol, and that opens up the box of all those interconnections. Now I'm going to shut up because I'm talking to you, but
Beautiful.
how does that reflect your creative process, for example, or the way that you tune into your inner antenna?
Yeah, I'm gonna just go out and just say it straight. There is something about creativity that is deeply spiritual.
Yeah.
And I think to deny that would be non-creative.
And can I ask, just to interrupt a bit, what do you mean by spiritual? Because people mean wildly different things, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? I would actually lean to what you're saying, which is spirituality is translated in so many different ways. But what I fundamentally, and that is fine, but what I'm fundamentally saying, I suppose, to level it up, is it is sacred. It is to be valued in a deeply reverent, sacred, spiritual way. It is to be held and to be acknowledged in a way that goes beyond human understanding. When I say spiritual, that's what does that make sense?
Oh, it makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been a central, I guess, passion and interest in my professional life and personal life, right? So, like, I'm obviously a psychologist, but I also did a master's degree in religious studies, like studying world religion. I actually don't believe in a God per se, but I believe in a deep spirituality, and it's quite similar to what you're talking about. For example, states of awe. When you fall in love with somebody, or you're in a forest, or whatever it is.
That's beyond us.
Yeah, but includes us.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Right. I think to separate spirituality from humanity is counterproductive. It doesn't work like that. No. They are to be intertwined. That is what makes the human experience complete. The combination of both of those, the acknowledgement of both of those. And so one would argue if you remove music from the world or art from the world, you remove the color from the world, because you're actually pulling apart part of the spirituality. I think there's something, and I mean, there's an extension to that conversation, because in order for us to be creators and to understand the spiritual element of it, then one must possibly toy with the thought that if we are creative beings, there must be a creator who has created. Creativity inspires creativity is what I'm trying to say, but that's a conversation for another time. But
it probably is, but I can't resist the temptation to say something, and that is that maybe the central mechanism of the universe is creativity, that we are a part of a generativity,
Listen, I mean, all due respect to anyone listening, but I think we'd be pretty arrogant to think that this universe starts and stops with us. Well, we don't even understand half of it.
Especially when, generally speaking, we primarily identify with what we call the ego, which is
totally.
I mean, neuroscience looks at that and goes, well, there's no such thing. And of course we know that we have a kind of continuous self-narrative.
Yeah.
But all of the things you and I have been talking about, the creative process, love, awe, and spirituality, they all point, they only take place. We only get access to that when we drop the ego.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I would push back and say sometimes when you hold the ego in one hand and the art just looks ugly. You can't do it with an ego, but it just looks ugly and a lot of time repulsive. In my experience, I might be wrong.
No, I think you're on the money, and because you also mentioned earlier about creating a safe space for creativity to flourish, right?
Yeah.
Right, and it's interesting in the workplace context. There's a notion, a thing called psychological safety. It's taken quite a hold, on consultants going in and HR departments.
Yeah.
But but fundamentally, if you create a social environment where people feel that they're heard and understood and respected, they relax, right?
Yes.
And so my research into creative process, a key factor is what I called egolessness. You know, the dropping of self-concern and the ego, and it opens up the mind to be more exploratory.
Yeah,
right?
Totally agree.
Yeah, and
now
what I'm interested in is because there's so many things we could talk about here, right? But the other little thing in my mind is we're talking now as if we're enlightened beings who don't struggle with this at all, right?
We're on a journey, but
I know, and I'd like to just hear a little bit about that journey, especially where does suffering fit into your creative productivity and the insights that we've just been talking about?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Again, just a cheeky disclaimer, this is just from my own personal experience.
Of course.
But I think the human experience consists of both mountaintops and valleys and everything in between. And I think to deny or live in a state of denial of the valleys does the mountaintops an injustice. You don't see a mountaintop without seeing a valley on the other side of it. What goes up must come down. And there are certain laws which bring balance to our spirituality, to our humanity. These are just the laws of life, the ways of life. And the more we are willing to embrace them, the more stronger and resilient we become, the more we pursue and persevere in our creative expression, because it becomes more holistic, because it incorporates the ups and the downs. And so the downs are the suffering, which are necessary in anybody's life in order to be grateful for the victories. And so I believe that creativity has to be inclusive of suffering in order for it to be authentic and to connect with the recipient of that art.
Yeah, so again, a lot of stepping off points here. And I mean, one of the ways that I hear what you just said, because, obviously I've been a therapist for a long time, and there is a deep intimacy and beauty in people sharing their suffering.
Yeah.
Right. And that's part of the curative process, but it's also part of the process of people, gaining insight and wisdom. Right. And the Buddhists, of course, they talk about, that life entails suffering, right? That it's the dukkha is this, and
sure.
But there's something that you were saying there, and I don't want to lead the witness. I'd be interested in your take, but because you kind of were painting a picture there of the hilltops and the valleys.
Yeah.
And I had this sense, and I don't know whether I'm right. This could be my inner antennae being out of frequency, like out of order. But I had a sense in which there's almost like that you are there. With a capacity to observe the valleys and observe. So there's what's known as equanimity. Right?
Okay.
So equanimity is this just radical acceptance. It's a kind of general, I'm okay with whatever's happening because that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so I'll hand that over to you. I'll hit that one over the court and see what comes back.
Yeah, I suppose I go back to what I said, that we'd be slightly arrogant fools to think that this universe starts and stops with us. And with that in mind, just on the fact that we don't know everything about the universe, so we can't think that we are our own gods. That is not wise, in my opinion. And I think just the willingness to accept the valleys and the mountains. I had to go a step further and say, hey, I think the key is in embracing the valley moments and embracing the mountaintops so that we might learn and have something to create. Like, I don't want to just look at the valley and be like, oh, that looks a bit tricky. I want to get in there and be like, this sucks. What am I feeling? What am I learning? What am I seeing? Who else is in the valley with me? Who can I help in the valley? We can be in the valley together. We're here. Right now, life is taking us through a tunnel or a valley. What are we doing about it? Where that sense of embracing, in my opinion, is where you come out the other side and go, that sucked. That absolutely sucked. And you know what? I think I'm not the only one that sucked for. And how can I now bring beauty to someone else's world and help them feel seen? In fact, and you know, in a really kind of almost morbid way, collaboration in the valley is a whole nother level compared to collaboration on the mountaintop. The saying's collaboration breeds innovation. And when you're in something with someone and you're journeying it together and you get to exchange ideas and help each other and encourage each other and say, yo, come on, we can do this. Don't give up. All right, let's stay off the bottle, or let's you know, how's your marriage? How's your marriage going? Dude, come on, let's go. Let's just go and hang out. Like, that sharing valley moment, you get a resilience, the innovation, you get the oomph, the zest, the zeal, that you might not get on your own. And so I think just like coming back to the landing strip of creativity, it is our embracing of suffering and our embracing of the victories that help bring balance and learning and development and growth. My son, my 8-year-old son, would only fully embrace walking and learn to walk if he knew what it was to fall down.
That's it.
And I can't be there to catch him every time. I have to let him fall.
I know.
And then I'll say, oh, come on, let's go. And so I think the same approach must resonate with life itself. We can only learn to walk, let alone run, if we are willing to embrace the fact that sometimes we fall. There's a great concept called falling forward or failing forward.
Yes, I know that. Yeah.
Right. You would know, you know. And so, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I do.
Like,
now, I was just thinking,
yeah.
during this week, I saw one of your videos. I think it was, you made a video on the making of Benjamin. I think Benjamin is your latest album. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it's also your middle name.
Oh, it is.
And so, in a way, I can, you know, again, I'm just guessing, but, you know, this is a kind of embracing of that uniqueness of who you are. Like, that's not your normal identity, the middle name, not something that you normally would use.
Definitely.
But in that, there were some shots there of what you were doing for the, what do you call it, the acoustic bits, where you're getting into the crowd.
Yeah.
The musicians, you know, in the center of the crowd. And that memory just came back to me when you were talking about transmuting, you know, the suffering into a shared, you know, people suddenly, it's a community thing, you know, it's just like we're all human. We all have these experiences. I'm not alone, right? So I just want to ask you about what that's like, and particularly what that was like doing that the acoustic bits right in the middle of the crowd.
Yeah, there's a word from the southern parts of Africa, which is Ubuntu, and it basically translates as "I am because we are."
Lovely, yeah.
The feeling of being in the crowd or going beyond the stage to come close re-emphasizes I am only because we are. I am doing this because you are in the room. You paid to come to the room, and I get to come do this.
And you're no longer just writing songs in your bedroom for yourself, right?
100%. And I think that codependency, particularly in the creative process or the creative expression, is often undervalued. That actually an artist with art means nothing without someone to receive or to appreciate the art. I mean, expression, don't get me wrong, and expression in itself can be quite therapeutic. But
Yes.
in the same, the process, the whole journey is complete when you get to share the art and impact someone's world. And so that's the gratitude, that's the payoff, that's the reward. And that comes at different levels. That comes in different platforms, TikTok, Instagram. But the payoff basically summarizes, I am only because we are. And I think
so nice.
The sooner and the quicker we as creatives can embrace that, we start to then make the music for the we are rather than I am. We start to make songs, we start to do poetry, we start to do visual art and all kinds. We even start to do business. I remember listening to Shaquille O'Neal, and he said, he has a number of businesses. He's a very successful, wealthy man. But he said the minute he turned his business models to how can I make money to how can I serve others, he tripled his income in all of his businesses threefold. And so, or roundabouts there. And so he was emphasizing this point. The minute you make your business, your creative thinking and business and art, whatever, the minute you make it about others and you appreciate the codependency factor, the minute you become more valuable, the minute your art becomes more valuable. And so now in this season of my life, I'm desperately trying to go, I'm making art for the people who paid to come out on my last tour and be in the room with me, those people who I was in the round with. If I can do that, then it's gonna do what it's supposed to do, isn't it? So
yeah.
It's a bit of a long-winded answer to your short question. Do forgive me, but I hope it makes sense, you know?
It makes perfect sense. No, I was listening to every word. There's quite a famous Buddhist monk. He was Vietnamese, but he lived in France. His name was Thich Nhat Hanh. He died a few years back. And he was also a poet. But he had a beautiful notion, a thing he called the interbeing. And the idea is that, from a Buddhist point of view, we're not separate. But there's an application of it, and I've really found this helpful for me, but also helpful in the therapeutic situation. That, when you have a profound communication with someone, it becomes the we, right? As you were saying, right? And let me give you an illustration of that. When you know someone for a long time and you're very close with them, obviously tragedy occurs in life, like we were saying before, valleys.
Right.
And one of the tragedies, of course, is people die on us and leave us, right?
Yeah.
And in the grieving, in the therapeutic room, for example, one of the most common phrases that people would say is, I feel like something's been torn out of me.
Whoa, it's heavy.
Yeah, it's heavy, isn't it? But the way I hear that is that's the interbeing, it's like, for example, with my wife, we've been married a very long time.
Amazing.
We hardly complete sentences with each other now because we don't need to. I'm sure you know what I mean. And it's like, because her neural networks are all integrated in mine and mine in hers.
Right.
And so there's this kind of third entity that's created that only exists. And I was thinking about, you entering into the crowd.
Yeah.
And that sense of connection. Right?
Yes.
Right. And people will remember that, right? It will carry significance and meaning, right? They'll feel those feelings again. When they hear a song, they'll go back to that interbeing that you've created with them.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's incredibly, that's, I think, one of the dimensions, because we're such social creatures, we have a kind of misconception in the West in particular that we're individual atoms and really separate. But the advances in social psychology and understanding of the way the brain and even an identity, can only be that that I am here because of we, right? If there's no reflections coming back, there's no self-identity, right?
Yeah, right.
So now I know time is going fast. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you. I know. This is more a practical question.
Yeah.
Right. But given our conversation so far, I don't know how long we'll keep it practical. But anyway, most of the musicians and the artists that I've spoken to have kind of had to learn along the way how to nurture and protect and take care of their creative process. And they've had the insight, generally speaking, that they've got to take care of their physical well-being, their relationships. Could you just talk a little bit about what you've learned and what you do to maintain keep you in tip-top creative form, as it were?
I don't know about tip-top, but I'll give it a go. Yeah. That's a lovely question. So the thing that really helps me is diversifying and rest.
Yeah.
So right now I'm just starting to write a new album. Like just kind of putting some skeletons together for some songs. But off the back of this, I just finished exec producing an album for a great pop artist out in Switzerland and Germany. And then after this season, I'm writing a film, and so the diversification in the creative expression I found helps stimulate different, because you then have to get different inspiration because of the diversifying, and so you're still exercising the same muscle, but it's almost like going to the gym and doing back day or something, and you're doing different muscles in the same area. And so that keeps it interesting, I suppose. And then the other thing, rest, like knowing. I never forget where Elton John has a Christmas party when which he invited all of his artists to. And we were all there, like Ed Sheeran, Rag and Bone Man, myself, a couple of maybe 20 of us who were on his management at the time. And I noticed that he didn't have, or maybe he said it, that he doesn't have any pianos in his house.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have any pianos in his house at all.
Wow.
In any of his properties, he doesn't have pianos in his house.
I think I can see where this is going. Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, sir, why would you? And he said, because that's my job. I have to why would I do that when I need to carve out? And it was so harsh, but so wise. And so in my own life, I've learned the value of being away from the creative expression.
Yeah.
Giving it a break, giving it a rest. Giving that part of my brain, my spirituality, a rest, so that when I walk out into my writing room, or if I come into a creative space, I've got to collaborate, or even just creative thinking. If I'm doing consultancy, I'm ready for it. I'm coming.
Yeah, I do.
Fresh ears, So those are my two things: rest and diversification.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, one of the factors that I identified that across all types of creativity, not just in the arts. Is a thing, I gave it various names like cross-training or multi-dimensionality, but it's essentially the most creative people are normally passionate about more than one domain.
Yeah.
Right? And the other domains provide a different angle, a different facet, different metaphors, different mental frameworks that can liberate us from the impasses and dead ends of one framework.
Yes.
It's having more than one way of looking at something often frees it up. And the history of all creativity is a history of that kind of use of symbol and metaphor to escape the constraints of just having one thing. The other one, of course, is this idea of rest. And it's really interesting in that we'll probably finish this and then we'll wrap. But
yeah, fine.
There was a really interesting study done by a guy called Martindale a long time ago. He used EEG things, the measured brain waves, and they had these people. Some were identified as very creative, that people would nominate them, as very creative, and the others were just a random sample of the population.
Right.
And they would be looking at the peaking of brainwaves. Now, when we're trying to calculate answers to something, so like for example, if you do, they give them an IQ test, and the normals and the creatives, right? Their brain activation would go up. In other words, they were working really hard, and it was identical.
Right.
Right. And that kind of, mental work is very tough. But when they gave them creativity tests, these are like those, things where people have to, they've got to think laterally to solve it. They can't just calculate the answer, right?
Right.
The creatives did much better on these. They're more likely to solve the puzzles than the normal population.
Yes.
And when they looked at the brain waves, they're entirely different.
Sheesh.
The normal population, they increased the energy they were expending in the brain, the patterns of activation, to unsuccessfully solve the problems. Whereas the people who are very experienced creatively, the amplitude of their brain activation went down.
Wow.
But it was spread more widely across the neocortex.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Right?
Beautiful.
So there's also this, what I called modulations, that are very important, like this very hard-working, pouring information in and then relaxing.
Yeah.
Allowing the unconscious to sort.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then allowing the intuition to find the connections that the conscious mind can't find.
So good.
Isn't it? And it perfectly mirrors what you're saying. And I couldn't have engineered a better way to bring our conversation to a close, except to say, I fear I have kept you longer than I promised, and I've enjoyed myself far too much.
You and I both. Come on.
Seriously, thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
I highly, highly recommend your music to people. It just blew me away listening to it. One of the things that I felt about it is you can just feel that there are so many influences that you have integrated into your music.
Cheers, sir.
No, but it's true, isn't it? I mean, and then I looked you up a bit and I saw, there's lots of influences, lots of musicians that you've really followed, lots of styles of music. Yeah. That's why I think, you're at a stage in your career, this integrative stage, and I think the Benjamin album is a part of that. Yeah. Of really saying, well, what's in here? What's the whole thing that you can bring together? So anyway, I highly recommend you to our audience.
Cheers, sir. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah, no worries, as we say here. And yes, we'll probably do some sort of follow-up with the artists, this year or next year.
Sure.
We don't know what we're going to do next, but if you're open to that, I'll be in touch.
Anytime.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the Psychology to Live By podcast. If you'd like to know more, my website is www.drchris.life, and click on the videos tab to find links to all my social media. And if you like the podcast, tell people that you like, so they can like it too. And the calmly beautiful song you've been listening to in the background is Okay by Jake Issac.